Hey, folks, Gene Galin with the Chatham Journal. I got Asheebo Rojas of the Chatham News and Record, and it's our weekly ChathamNC Sports Roundup. Uh, Again, Asheebo's the star of this show. Usually he'll spend about 80% of the show telling you all the stuff that's going on in Chatham County News. For the folks that are watching, we'll have dozens of you watching this live, and then hundreds up to, I think, between 800 to 1,000 of you watch sometime during the week. So we appreciate you. And there's the agenda of what we've got coming up. Big football weekend Friday night. Northwood versus Chatham Central at Northwood, Seaforth versus JM. So all four schools are playing, and they're all at just two games. Going to go into the final. Well, it's not the final, but the power rankings. And I'll ask Asheebo, if one of those teams happens to upset the other, do they move up in the power rankings? And then, of course, everyone's athlete of the week. And we had 5 high schools make it into the state high school volleyball playoffs. 2 of them are still in there. They're playing tonight, Seaforth and Wood. So let me get out of here and let's get going with what's going on with last Friday's games. Asheebo, I'll let you go.
Yeah, so to start off, biggest game from last Friday was between Northwood and Cummings. Chargers went up there to Burlington, take on second place Cummings, and they were playing for second place in the conference because I think if Northwood had won that game, they would have been able to jump Cummings there and get that automatic playoff bid. But they just couldn't stop the run in that game. It couldn't stop Cummings running backs, Devin Witherspoon and Jaden Brisky. They lost that one 49-28. And yeah, the Cavaliers, they rushed for 322 yards in that game. Witherspoon had 152 and 4 scores. Brisky had 161 yards and 3 scores. So that was the biggest thing. Head coach Dalton Brown from Northwood said missed tackles were a big problem for them on Friday night. But also, I mean, Northwood, they were neck and neck with Cummings, especially in that first half. And then they went into halftime tied at 14, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it was back and forth from the first quarter, second quarter, and a little bit even into the third quarter. They went into the fourth quarter tied at 21. But yeah, they just couldn't stop the run, and then Northwood had some miscues in the passing game, some drop passes, misreads, and things like that really hurt their offensive drives there late in the game. And that's how Cummings just kept pouring on, getting downfield with the run game, and then eventually taking that one, like I said, 49-28. And then in our other games, we also had Seaforth playing against the top team in the conference, the Mid-Carolina 1A, 2A conference, Southeast Alamance on Friday. And that one, they lost 44-7. And when I was looking at, some of the stats, a little bit of the film from that game, it just looked like, Seaforth just couldn't do anything offensively in that one. They were limited to just 86 yards of total offense. And Southeast Alamance also intercepted Seaforth twice in that game. And, I mean, offensively for Southeast Alamance, they gained the most of their yards on the ground between sophomore running backs Daniel Bunker and DJ Callis there. They combined for 267 yards. And Callis also scored 2 touchdowns in that game. So this is a tough loss for Seaforth going up against what's been far and ahead the best team in the conference. Southeast Alamance had got the best of Northwood as well, which we know is the best team here in the county. So just a tough game for Seaforth in that one. And yeah, they fell to 2-5 after that loss. And we had Jordan Matthews going against Bartlett Yancey on Friday, losing that one 57-14. And in that one, they were only trailing 27-14 entering the fourth quarter. So Jordan Matthews, played them tough for the majority of that game. But looking at the film, once again, the end of the third quarter and going into the fourth quarter, of course, I mean, explosive plays from Bartlett Yancey really took them over the top. And also turnovers and negative plays really hurt Jordan Matthews offensively in that game. So, I mean, even in that game where they lost by that many, of course, we know they're still dealing with some injuries to key players. They had some players, Jakari Blue. I think Rashad McSwain also played in that one, if I'm not mistaken. But they had some players back for that one, but just fell short. But they did show, some fight in the beginning of the game, like we saw on the scoreboard. And then we had Chatham Central coming off of a bye week. And then Northwood, of course, we just talked about that. They're getting ready to play on this Friday for the last conference game of the season And then also to Northwood, they did add a game against Hope County for that last week after this Friday. As a lot of teams added an extra game with the extended week of the season from Hurricane Helene. But yeah, so we'll have the Bears playing Northwood at Northwood. I think this is a big bounce back game for the Chargers. Just another opportunity for Chatham Central to get better here at towards the end of the season. And yeah, I think, Gene, you might agree with me. I think Northwood is going to take this one. And then for Jordan Matthews, they're going to Seaforth hosting the Jets in another county matchup for this Friday. And yeah, for Seaforth, I mean, this is kind of a big game because they have to win this one to kind of push them over the top in the RPI standings there. I think Seaforth is sitting at 35, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 35 in the 2A East RPI standings. So they get this win over Jordan Matthews. That will help. They also have another game against Southern Lee in that extended week, which is actually not an extra game, but just to make up from the game that was canceled earlier in the year from the Hurricane. So, yeah, I mean, when I look at this game between Seaforth and Jordan Matthews, I think Seaforth is going to rely on another strong game from their defensive front and the linebackers who have been, kind of their best unit all year long. And I think if we can see a bounce back game from Duncan Parker and the Seaforth offense, which all year and all the games I've been to with Seaforth, Parker running the ball, getting behind some blockers, has been some of their most effective offense this year. I think they will be able to do that a lot against Jordan Matthews on Friday, and I think Seaforth takes that one. And yeah, if we can go also into power ranking. Oh, Gene,
I was going to say I will have to agree with you. I think Northwood's. This is going to be definitely a bounce back game. But before I continue, Derek, hey, thanks for watching. Tiffany, thanks for watching. Derek, of course, is a regular. He's on here all the time, and he always has to comment about something. So that's fine. Tiffany, Nikki, thanks for watching. I was going to say, let me ask you this question. When you talk about the RPI for Seaforth, you mentioned they're at 35. So are you saying if they get to 32, there's a possibility that they make it into the playoffs?
Yeah, if you're within the top 32, you're in the field to make the playoffs. Of course, they do the conference winners first. Those teams get seeded first, and then the second place automatic bids are after that, and then everyone else will fill in the rest of the 32. For each side, East and West. So looking at 2A East, Seaforth is at 35. They'll have to, win their last two games, and then also get some help from other teams to kind of, knock the teams in front of them down. Here in the last 2 weeks, depending on if teams have extra games added with that extra week. So, yeah, we'll see how it falls for Seaforth. But as of right now, I mean, Northwood, I think, is looking to be, the only county team in the field here on the 2A East side. I think Northwood is sitting at 24, which is, pretty good standing. They'll probably have to travel for that first round game for that, but Northwood is in there. Jordan Matthews down at 41. And then on the 1A East side, we have Chatham Central down at 34 for the football RPI. So, yeah, Northwood is looking like the team that's going to make it here so far with just a couple weeks left.
Well, I appreciate the information on Seaforth because Derek noted in the comments, because I'm following the comments on our Facebook feed, if they win, they will go, especially against Lee. So, if Derek says you're right, you must be right, Asheebo. Well, let me ask you about JM. I mean, the thing about JM is I feel that if they didn't have all the injuries, they would be having a whole lot better season this year. What's your feeling on JM?
I mean, yeah, I agree with you. Look at the games like against Bartley Yancey, and some of the other games earlier. I think was it South Davidson? I think it was the first game they lost of the season. You look at those games. I think they'll come out on top, or maybe make it closer, and have a better chance in some of these games. I even think they could have maybe even made that Northwood game a little closer too, right? If they have Dula in the backfield for them, and also in the defensive backfield as well, covering some of Northwood's receivers. So yeah, and Seaforth, I also, this will be another one, I'm sure, tomorrow where we'll look back and be like, man, if Jordan Matthews was healthy, this could be different, but a lot of these guys are coming back next year. Fortunately for Jordan Matthews, as Coach Kermit Carter, he's building that culture up. So there's some differences we saw, as before the season started. They said it's a different feeling, and they also still had, you can still argue that they had a better season than last year, just the way they played in some of these games and even in their losses. So, yeah, I mean, Jordan Matthews, I don't think they have anything to kind of hold their heads down on. They have a young team. Like I said, a lot of kids coming back next year under a new coach with a new culture. And we'll just have to see how that all transpires once they get a full off season and get back to it next year.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody from Siler City, and they were happy to see Coach Kermit in that position. Also, I want to give out a shout out to Miss Doris Snipes. She was actually my kid's bus driver when they were going to Perry Harrison a long time ago. But her grandson plays on the C4 team, and apparently he injured his ACL, so he's going to be out for the rest of the season. So this is unfortunately a time of year where a lot of kids. Injuries pile up, and that makes it tough for some teams. So hope everyone gets well who's injured, and we've got a whole bunch of stuff coming up, including the power rankings. So Asheebo, I don't think they've changed much, but let folks know what your football power rankings are for this week.
Well, it changes a little bit, and after last week, I did make a little bit of changes here at the back end. So instead of Jordan Matthews coming in at 4 like they did last week, I have Chatham Central at 4, Jordan Matthews at 3, Seaforth at 2, and Northwood at 1. And like I said, Jordan Matthews, I mean, they showed some flashes of some good football in that game against Bartlett Yancey. I mean, despite, the players they're missing, they still, kind of hung around and kept it close there for most of that game until, of course, the fourth quarter. So I think give them the nod there this week. And, of course, like you said, if someone does get the upset this week with the two county teams, with all 4 county teams playing each other, there will be some movement again before that last week next week. So Northwood and Chatham Central knocks off Northwood. Of course, they're moving up. And then here, Jordan Matthews knocks off C4 tomorrow. Of course, we'll give them the nod as well. So,
all right, let me ask you this question. If Chatham Central beats Northwood tomorrow night, are you going to move them up to spot number 1, or are you going to keep people guessing?
I'm going to have to keep people guessing. I can't say it, they'll be number 1.
But they will move up. All right. Well, then again, if they and JM win, that's going to be interesting. So, folks, you got to tune back in next Thursday for that. All right, let's move on to the next thing. Let's talk about all the stories you got coming out in the paper. Folks, pick up the Chatham News and Record. If you either subscribe or if you don't, you can pick it up and read. Asheebo's going to give you a rundown of the stories he has in there this week.
Yeah, so we have our usual roundups for all the fall sports here: volleyball, boys soccer, girls tennis, cross country. And you can catch a recap of last week in that roundup. We also have a football roundup with a little bit of previews for tomorrow. And then we have a story from, of course, Northwood's loss to Cummings that happened on Friday. You can read more about that story, and we go a little bit more in depth of what happened there on Friday night. And then we have a story from Seaforth and Northwood battle on Pittsburgh, but the boys soccer edition for the second time of the year after I think they went into that 1-1 double overtime tie the first time they met. But second time we got a winner. Seaforth won that one 3-1. So you can read more about that one. And then we also have a pretty cool feature on Seaforth athlete Noah Williams, who's on the football team. If you guys have been watching some sports the past couple weeks, and even probably the last couple months, you probably noticed Adidas commercial with Anthony Edwards, and he comes into a dart gym, and there's teams playing, I think, down to the final seconds, and the player stops, and he looks over, and Anthony Edwards walks in. That player is Noah Williams of Seaforth. So we got to talk to him about that commercial experience, shooting that with Anthony Edwards down in Atlanta. For Adidas. And it was a really cool story. He's talked about how he's been acting for about 4 years and how his siblings are also in the acting business as well. And the team is calling him Hollywood and all that. So you can read more about Noah Williams' commercial and his acting experience in the paper that came out today, and then it'll be online tomorrow morning.
All right. Now, of course, what everybody waits for every week, athlete of the week.
Yep, our athlete of the week this week is Maya Sheridan of Woods Charter Volleyball. As a senior, she led the Wolves volleyball team this season, and in that last their Central Tar Heel 1A conference tournament title, she led the team with a combined 29 kills in their 2 games in that run in the tournament last week. We talked about Sheridan, like we said, being a leader. All season, she's been a crucial part to Woods Charter success when they went undefeated once again in the conference. She's there for veteran leadership, and of course her skills. She's one of the premier players on the team. And I think she, looking at her records on Max Preps, I mean, she's far surpassed her previous career high for single season kills, which was 181 with 268 this season, as by the time we checked, when we wrote this last week. So 268 kills and counting, career high for Sheridan. Also really nice showing at the conference tournament title, and a nice good last year at Woods Charter for her and the Wolves. She's our athlete of the week this week.
Yeah, that's a good pick. And I also was going to say, I talked to the coach, Amanda Golf, a couple of weeks ago, and she had noted that Maya had sent her a text saying that she enjoyed playing for her, and that when she grows up, she'd like to be a little bit like her coach, which Amanda said touched her to the heart. And those guys are playing. They're actually playing tonight. But before we get there, is there anything else besides athlete of the week and the other stuff you just covered before we talk about volleyball?
Oh, no, let's get into the volleyball playoffs.
All right. We start off with 5 teams in the playoffs on Monday. The 3 teams that played away lost, and the 2 teams that played at home won. So let's talk about Seaforth, and let's talk about Woods Charter.
Yeah, so guys, just want to run down the scores from the first round. On the 1A side, we had number 4 Rosewood beating number 9 Chatham Central 3-1. We had number 7 Roxborough Community beating number 26 Chatham Charter 3-0. And then on the 2A side, we had number 3 Monio beating number 30 Northwood 3-0. And like Gene said, Woods Charter, Seaforth advance. Woods Charter, number 10 seed, they beat number 23 North Duplin 3-0. And then number 4 Seaforth here on the 2A side, they beat number 29 Northeastern 3-0 as well. So tonight, Woods Charter and Seaforth getting back to it for the second round here. We got on the 1A side, we got number 7 Roxborough Community hosting number 10 Woods Charter, and then Seaforth number 4 will be at home against number 13 Farmville Central on the 2A side. And so just looking at some of the records for Roxborough and Farmville Central. Start with Roxborough Community here in the 1A side. I mean, Roxborough, they're coming in after going 15-7, 11-1 in the conference and winning their conference. Woods Charter also, a conference champion, which I think this will be a good early test for Woods Charter, especially in the second round. Roxborough has consistently put out some good volleyball teams over the years and have done pretty well in the playoffs over the past few seasons. So for Woods, going to their place to play Roxborough, it's going to be a challenge. But I think what we've seen from Woods this year, like we said, led by Maya Sheridan. If we go back to that first round game, I mean, Maya Sheridan had 19 kills, Annabelle Una had 15 kills, Anna Stuntbeck, 10 service aces, Cecilia Brignati, 43 assists. I mean, they have a lot of players that can really produce and come up with some big plays throughout the whole game, which I think will really help them, especially with some of their veteran experience that they have as well in this game against Roxborough Community. And then Seaforth, they're going against Farmville Central. Farmville Central was 17-7 during the regular season and 10-2 in the conference and finished second in their conference. I think for Seaforth, this one, they just play their game and kind of play with the same intensity that they have been pretty much throughout this year. I think they'll be fine in this one. I think a big key for Seaforth. I mean, if you look at at their stats, I mean, they've kind of get everything from everybody. There's not really one person that jumps out in the stat books, except maybe in the assist column with Maris Honeycutt and Josie Valgus. But I think everyone shows up and plays their game, kind of like they've been this whole season. I think they get away with a win and survive until I think Saturday is when the third round will be.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with you. Talking about Woods, yeah, that's going to be a close game, and I think the challenge is the fact that they're playing at Roxborough Community. I think if they were playing at home, that would be their advantage. But their records are similar, so we'll see what happens. It would be nice to see them win, but it's not going to be an easy game for them. And on Seaforth, definitely agree with you. And I also want to remind folks, Allie Forbes, her dad is the coach at UNC baseball team. He lives in Chatham County. Actually, her sister played at Northwood. She's now over at UNC Wilmington. But if you want to see Coach Forbes, just don't bother him because he's enjoying watching his daughter. He and his wife were out there on the game on Monday, and they should be out there for tonight's game. And the other thing, too, as Asheebo said, if Seaforth wins today, they will probably be playing on Saturday. I think the tentative time, again, this could change, is 1 p.m. So congratulations to Seaforth and Woods for making it to the second round. All right, Asheebo, let's continue. What else are we going to go into?
Well, before we get into some of the boys' soccer stuff, I want to talk about tennis because tennis is also in the playoff season. And just want to shout out our individual qualifiers for the state tournaments. See if I can pull it up. All right. So, girls tennis, the individual qualifiers for singles and doubles. Here on the 1A side, we have Mac Allen and Maggie Moody qualifying for the 1A doubles state tournament from Chatham Charter. And in the 2A singles tournament, we have Lily McFall from Seaforth. And Lily McFall finished first in the 2A Mid-East Regional Tournament. I think according to Seaforth Athletics, I think that was their first regional champion in program history. So congrats to Lily McFall. And then we have Ella Gentile winning. Ella Gentile also qualifying in the 2A singles. And in the 2A doubles, we have Bailey Shadowan and Claire Cody from Seaforth as well. So Seaforth has 3 representatives here in the girls tennis state tournaments for individuals, and then Chatham Charter has 1 with Mac Allen and Maggie Moody for the doubles. And then individuals, they start tomorrow and Saturday. 1A will be played at Cary Tennis Center, and 2A will be at Team Park in Holly Springs. So if you guys want to go out there, support your local tennis players as they compete for state championships. That's where they will be at tomorrow and Saturday. And then dual team tennis playoffs have been going on this past week. And just looking at what we had so far, we had number 2 Chatham Charter on the 1A side. They got a forfeit in their first round, so they went up against number 10 Triangle Math and Science for the second round. Which will be played on October 28th. And then we had number 6 Seaforth on the 2A side, beating number 22 Raleigh Charter 9-0 yesterday in the second round. And they will go to number 14 NCSSM Durham on October 28th. Well, NCSM will come to Seaforth for that third round game on the 28th. So, we got 2 tennis teams still going strong here in the dual team. Of course, the individual girls going tomorrow. So plenty of action left here in Chatham County for girls tennis. And then boys soccer. A little bit of chaos going on in boys soccer the past couple of weeks. If you guys saw our roundup from this week, you guys will know Jordan Matthews, who has been on top of the Mid Carolina 1A 2A conference pretty much since it's been a thing. They're now in second place behind, I think, Southeast Alamance. Here in the conference standings after dropping, of course, I think they dropped a game to Graham, if I'm not mistaken, and another conference game, which hasn't been very characteristic of Jordan Matthews as of recently. But like we said, it's a rebuild year for the Jets, and even though rebuild might mean something different for them, it's starting to show here at the end of the season as things get real spicy going into the playoffs. So, on Monday, we had Jordan Matthews bouncing back with an 8-0 win over American Leadership Academy. And then we had Seaforth, who's trying to climb up, also up in the RPI. And they had a chance of maybe getting third place in the conference, but not sure if it's going to happen after this week for Seaforth. They took a loss to Northmore 1-0 on Monday, and then yesterday they lost to Southeast Alamance 6-0, and then Woods Charter, they're also in good playoff standing. They lost to Triangle Math and Science on Monday 3-1 in double overtime. Woods, but they bounced back yesterday to beat Clever Garden School 4-2 as well. So just looking at the boys soccer standings here in RPI, on the 1A side, we have Woods Charter in good playoff standing at the 25th spot. Chatham Charter sitting outside of it at the 38th spot. And then on the 2A side, Jordan Matthews still as high as the 14th spot here on in the RPI standings. And then C4 at the 27th spot, just kind of on the edge there of just making it into the field. And then Northwood is just outside the field at 36. So far we have 3 teams looking like they're going to make it here into the playoffs as the season gets to a close this week and next week. And yeah, it should be a very interesting finish to the soccer season and very interesting entrance into the soccer playoffs as well, with C4 trying to make their charge in there and trying to get their first playoff win this year in program history.
Right, I got a question for you. You mentioned the RPI on JM is sitting at 14. So, and again, you can't say for sure, but in all likelihood, if they're above 16, their first game, they should be a higher seed, and their first game should be at home. Is that right?
Yes, I think that should be right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but again, that doesn't always quite work out because it depends on who the conference champions are and that kind of stuff. So
especially now, it's looking like they. As of Sunday, and we can actually look at the standings now. Let's see if I have one of their. I can pull up Mid Carolina 1A 2A conference standings.
Now you talked to Coach Kudros was it last week or the week before, and what's his overall feeling? Because as you said, it's a fairly young team. It's quote unquote rebuilding. So.
They figured they'll be fine in conference play, especially after they took some tough losses to start the season. They went and played some 4A teams to kind of get that experience of playing some good competition, seeing what they have and what the young guys can do. They've improved throughout the year, even in some more of those tough games. Like they went to Franklin. They hosted Franklin Academy, which is the team that knocked them out of the playoffs last year, and only lost that one 1-0. But yeah, they had some hiccups here in the last couple of weeks. On the 10th, they lost to Graham 2-1, which kind of knocked them out of the first place spot. And then it further knocked them out, when they lost to Southeast Alamance, who was in first place on the 16th last week, 5-3. When talking to Coach Quadros, he has some veteran leaders. The 3 that did return from last year that are starting. Have been providing that leadership, making sure the guys are playing to the Jordan Matthews standard, doing what they need to do as a team, to be successful here in conference play. But yeah, all year, he's known that this team is young. It's going to take some time to get them playing, the Jordan Matthews soccer that they're used to the past couple of years. And it might even have to wait until next year to really see that all come into fruition. But yeah, they still have a good opportunity to finish strong here in the conference. They have C4 next Monday, and then on Wednesday they'll host Graham for another big game. But yeah, it's going to be a little different for them going into the playoffs. Not as the conference champion as it looks right now. They'll still be an automatic bid, which is a high seed for them as well as their season has gone. So. It'll be interesting to see how they still fare out in the playoffs this year, because I think last year they went to they made it to the regional finals, if I'm not mistaken. Regionals or the round before the regional finals. I think it was the 4th round last year.
Yeah. And on the women's soccer side, it was C4th, and also they won their championship, and Woods made it to the finals championship game and lost that one. So. What else we got before we talk about where you and I are going to be for the next few days?
I think we're all covered with everything as far as playoffs and the final pushes for the playoffs here. As the fall sports season comes to a close, basketball is coming. It's around the corner. Tryouts, I think, for the charter schools, I think, was this week, And then, of course, for the rest of the county will be next week on the 30th is when they'll be able to get started. So we're going to start making some rounds to some basketball practices in the next coming weeks and get some previews together for you guys as the basketball season approaches. So, I think we got it all covered here.
Yeah, I see C4 put out a notice that they have a fall season meeting for the parents, and I know you and I are aware that Coach Barry over at C4 he's opened up the gym at 6:00 in the morning to have those guys come in. However, tonight for the volleyball, both you and I will be at Seaford for that game, and I will say, I tell folks, and I'm going to pop it up right here, that you need to follow on Asheebo on X for his updates. However, I will also say that the internet connectivity at the Seaford location isn't always the best. So some things may come through a little late. But again, if you can't make it out to the games, just follow Asheebo on Asheebo R38 and we'll keep you up to date. All right, Asheebo, anything else before we say bye to everybody?
No, I think we're all good. And yeah, like I said, we'll be at C4 tonight, and then once again, I'll be at C4 tomorrow night for their game against Jordan Matthews. And yeah, I think, like I said, I think we're all set.
All right. Hey, thanks to everybody. I do want to ask a favor. If you're watching us right now, whether it's Facebook, X, or YouTube, if you can, just share the link just share it in your. If you're Facebook, just share it so other folks that you know can see it out there. It's basically because it helps us with our algorithms. Then folks become aware that Asheebo and I are doing the ChathamNC Sports update. So that's all we ask. And again, thank you for everybody who's watching. I have a long list of folks: Angela, Daniel, Kathy, Aviana, Martha, Poriro, Derek. I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name. Frono, Kelly, a whole bunch of Suzanne, a whole bunch of folks are watching us. So thank you for doing that. And again, if you can't watch us live, just watch the replays. We will see you next Thursday with a lot more sports. We'll probably big roundup as to what's going on with football and all the other sports that are coming to a close. Plus, I think we might have a little bit on basketball as well. Everyone, thank you for watching. Asheebo, as always, thank you.